Hello, welcome to Cult Classic Society. I'm Bobby Davies and I'm joined by my friend Tim Martini. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing good, Bobby. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Glad to be back. Enjoyed doing the first couple of episodes. We had a pretty good reception from anyone who actually listened and told us about it. We had a couple of listeners from America. I was quite excited about that.
Oh, wow. I know a couple of my friends listened to it and they were just sending me their favourite clips or clip in bits from their whatever podcast site they were using, just sending it to me, go, I love this so much. I
wish my friends would do stuff like that. My friends would mostly just be like, if they were going to do that, the bit that I sound most like an idiot, that's the bit they would send me. Right, have you been up to much, Tim?
Well, how do I put this? So, during this time, since the last episode, I have recently discovered that I am non-binary, which I would not lie to you, it's been a couple of months of in searching with myself. I've always thought I was, but over the since the last episode, it kind of just got cemented, and it's been a very interesting journey.
As long as you're happy, mate, that is the main thing.
Absolutely. The pronouns are he, they, so still very mass, but leaning more to the femme side. Yeah, it's been fun. There's been tons of support from my friends and family, which is obviously the thing you want when you do that. Yeah, I've just been exciting, really.
Good. I'm really glad that you've found some peace.
Thank you.
Talking of peace, I'm going to go for the antithesis of peace. We're going to talk about bottom. If there was a TV show, especially a comedy, that I think you could adequately describe the opposite of peace, it is Rick Mayall and Adrian Edmondson beating the crap out of each other in half-hour chunks. So for this episode, your required reading was 3 episodes of the show. It was Gas, Burglary, and Terror. Yes, great episode. Oh, that's my thought. And the first live show, which there are 5 of, but we're only going to talk about the first one here.
There's 5 of those?
5 of them, yes, there is. All right, so a bit of an outline on the series, written almost entirely by Rick and Adrian themselves. They were in The Young Ones together and did The Dangerous Brothers as well. Quite a few other comedy kind of bits they did. Rick sadly died it was 2016.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, Bobby here. Just a quick note, Rick actually passed away in 2014. Apologies for the mistake. When he was actually preparing for Bottom Series 4, he was trying to get himself in physical shape to do the physical side of this, and he went out for a run and had a cardiac arrest. Come home, collapsed, and sadly, I think it was his wife and daughter found him.
Oh, jeez.
So there's a bummer to start the show. It's not entirely a bummer. I think there's a bit more depth to Bottom than I think some people will realise. It's been highlighted by a really cool podcast. I've listened to all of it. It's called Talking Bottom, which actually just goes over every episode and the live shows and some of their kind of surrounding materials. But we'll get into that as we go on, some of the things that they said over on that podcast.
Of course.
So did you notice anything about the names of the episodes? Did you look at the whole list of the 18?
They were just one word titles, weren't they?
Yeah, some of them not kind of a weird with an apostrophe and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you ever look? Did you figure out what that was about?
For life of me, could not figure it out.
So a lot of them, you say bottom and then you say that. So there's one that's called out. So it's bottoms out. And then there's one that's called sup, which is bottoms up.
Yeah.
And they don't all work, but a lot of them do. Not every episode does.
So, leading on from that, one thing I looked up about this was Rick Mayall said he wanted the show to be called Your Bossum.
Yes.
Because he wanted audiences to say, I saw your bossum last night.
Yeah. That is very much Rick's sense of humour. He is silly, or was a silly soul. Although a lot smarter than I think people gave him credit for. He always wanted to be the clown, I think. But when you actually see him in interviews and he actually discusses stuff on the serious side, he's very intelligent.
I think that's the case with most comedy, to be honest. The more outlandish it is, the more almost normal the creator is.
He's definitely not normal. He's just intelligent. Adrian's definitely more on the normal side. If you ever see them interviewed together, they met at Manchester Uni, and I think that's where they started doing comedy straight away.
Yeah.
And I think some of the others from The Young Ones were also at Manchester, then the rest of them were from the Footlights, I think, Cambridge.
Oh, okay.
So it's a mixture. So we're going to go straight on to episode 1, which is, it's got one of the most famous scenes of any bottom in it. It's any bottom episode. It's called Gas. Before we get started though, sorry, what did you have any preconceived notions about the show? Did you know anything about it? Did you know anything about the actors?
I knew no. Okay, I knew Rick Mayall from Drop Dead Fred.
Great film.
Great film. Yeah, no, it's absolutely great. It's like childhood to me. I knew nothing about Bottom. Honestly, I've heard of it, but never saw an episode or had actually really heard much about it, which was very interesting to me.
So I think a lot of people have actually heard of the young ones more than Bottom.
Yes.
The young ones, I think maybe our parents' generation, I think there's probably an age gap between mine and your parents too, but their generation would have loved the young ones, early 80s, about students.
Yeah.
It's similar vein, very anarchic, but also probably more on the pop culture. They had bands on every episode, so like Motorhead was on it. And
oh wow.
Yeah, it was a crazy show. And then Bottom, I think, slipped under the radar a bit more to some people, especially than like the younger generation. Technically, I think I'm probably too young, and a lot of people my age don't know what it is, who it is. I got introduced to it by my cousin, who probably shouldn't have been showing me.
I was going to say, like, how old were you when the show came out?
So the first episode was 91 when I was 3.
Yeah.
Well, that's the year I turned 3. I might not have even been 3 when it came out. So yeah, this is definitely one of those things that's a bit before my time. I've got an overarching theory that older people enjoy stuff that's before their time, and the current kind of crop of teenagers and early 20s don't enjoy much from before their time because of the way they consume media. Like, a lot of us had like our parents' VHS and record collection. They've got everything.
See, I would almost argue I grew up in a weird in between, because I grew up with VHS and DVDs, and like I guess in a similar vein, watching a show that I should have when I was such a young age, I watched Little Britain.
Yeah, definitely.
And
speaking of shows with problems,
yeah, I mean, I was going to say that was a show that actually Bottom reminds me a lot of Little Britain, actually.
Yeah, very on the nose sometimes, on the pulse of just being close to the edge.
Yeah,
without
exactly.
quite dropping over it, although I think they maybe did a couple of times. So let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get
into episode 1. What's your thought? What do you think of the situation? What did the flat, when you first get there, what did that evoke?
Oh god, it's like this bottom of society.
It's interesting you say that, because that's how Rick describes it.
Yeah.
He says that half the reason it's called Bottom is because they're the bottom of the pile. And obviously, especially the character of Richie, Rick's character, he aspires to be more than he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess first thing I said was actually Richie screaming about the gasman showing up felt very apt in this current climate.
It does. Weirdly, that's probably more apt than it was in the early 90s.
Yeah, exactly. And I just love, in a weird way, just like how mean they are to each other. Like, if there's an opportunity to better themselves by screwing over the other one, they're going to do it. And that's just so exemplified in the start, where they're betting chores with each other. And it's a game that Richie doesn't understand, because Eddie's just making the rules up.
Yes, he is, yeah.
Just so he doesn't have to do any of the chores, and he gets everything out of Richie, and Richie gets nothing.
And Richie's hiding all the cards, trying to cheat.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Eddie has 5 kings at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it kind of shows the fact that they only bet 3p in real money. It shows you how kind of like they are bottom of the barrel. They've got nothing.
Yeah.
And when you've got nothing, the idea of having to like also then clean around the U-bend in a toilet, that's even lower. Like,
yeah.
you now have to do all these chores. This is the thing that I was trying to say, where I think there's a bit more to it than just this daft comedy. They are, and I think this is why a lot of people, it spoke to a lot of people in the early 90s, like people were struggling.
Yeah.
And these two, despite it being very funny, are clearly always struggling. Like, the character of Eddie has alcohol dependency problems, clearly. Adrian Edmondson, who plays Eddie, he actually advocates for alcohol abuse kind of awareness and stuff.
Okay.
He's very on the ball, mostly because I think he's played characters like this, so I think he feels like he has to put that message out there.
Yeah, I think if you're like not glorifying a character, but if you're constantly portraying a character like that, and some people impressionable people might lean into it, you kind of have to go, actually, I don't agree with it.
No. So I agree with you, yeah. The story of the episode of Gas is essentially they're stealing gas.
Yeah.
From their neighbour, they attach a power supply that when the gas man comes, they panic. And that iconic Richie screaming, "The gas man."
Yeah.
that's one of the most quoted. Like if you're in any of the bottom like fan things, the gas man is a very.
I was gonna say because I was scrolling on TikTok the day before I watched this episode, and that appeared.
So him screaming the gas man.
Yeah, and I was like, oh wow, I wonder what this is from. And then next day I watched bottom, I was like, is this screaming gas man? Oh wow, it actually reached like what is considered like my generation's like biggest form of media consumption.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, my generation knows what this is.
Well, even if they don't know what it is, they see the entertainment value in it. Yeah, for sure. What was your reaction to the comic levels of violence?
I was a big fan of it. I don't know. I think it's because I grew up on that cartoony style of violence, especially like Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, and just seeing it in live action, it never disappoints me.
It's, as both pro wrestling fans and you as a pro wrestling trainee, you can obviously see there's an element of pro wrestling in that I love. When wrestling goes daft, hardcore, there's an element that they're doing that really reminds me of that.
Oh, absolutely. And I just loved how they just escalate from just beating up the gas man.
The best line of that, I think, after Richie has punched the crap out of him and Eddie's hit him with a frying pan, and they're trying to fob it off on each other, and they're like, he was dead before he hit the floor.
Yeah.
And then he hit himself repeatedly in the head with a frying pan.
And then just them trying to like just figure out how to get rid of the body.
Well, the thing is, you'd definitely be dead. Like the fact that he comes to later is ridiculous. But yeah, when they jump all over him when he's under the rug, they're contemplating putting him on the bus.
And then that's when he wakes up and he has amnesia.
I don't have a wife. Yeah, that'll be the amnesia. The fact that at the end, after all that, he finally comes around and they're finally relieved. Do you notice what they do? They push him down the stairs.
Yeah, it's like, get rid of him quick.
It's like, you've just been relieved this guy's alive and now you're trying to kill him again.
I was thinking one of my favourite things when they're trying to convince him, well, they want him to stay in the flat for another 15 minutes because then he's off the clock. So then they force him to drink the tea. And it's like, my favourite quote in the episode, 3 mugs of steaming cold tea.
I like Eddie's reaction when they're trying to worm their way around this situation, and Richie says we have it cold. The way Adrian Edmondson says we have it cold.
Yeah,
it's absolutely brilliant.
Like how do you like warm up the tea? We don't. We have it cold.
And then also the other line where he's like, "How do you keep it so warm in here? We make love,
not to each other,
on our own." Oh wait.
I was gonna say like my favourite thing is when he tries to sell the body to the kebab shop.
Yes, and his Great Dane's dead.
Yeah, so he hasn't eaten for a week.
Yeah, there's jumping back just slightly, there is the constant thing, especially with Richie as a character, of a bit of like gay fear.
Yes.
So he clearly has some bisexual leanings.
Yeah.
But he is afraid of them. They're also clearly virgins. At least Richie is.
Yes.
And
that's
he doesn't really know who he is.
Yeah.
Which is a very 90s trope, I think. It comes up more in the live show.
Yeah, I believe I did actually write that. Like, he's clearly queer-coded, but I think it's also that sense of, like, 90s writing where it's funny that he's gay, but he's not accepting it, but it's done in a way, it's like the punchline that is he's gay. He says something gay, and now he's panicking. Ha, ha, ha. Like, that's always the punchline.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a very 90s thing.
Again, it's some of this I think is aged quite well. Some of it is aged terribly.
Yes.
I think that if the series had gone longer and they had maybe Richie, so like in Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
yeah,
where Mac does come out.
Yes.
After, because he, for the first couple of series, is doing very similar stuff to Richie.
Yeah.
In denying it and panicking when anyone accuses him. And then he comes out.
Yeah.
I do wonder if it had gone on and they would maybe do that. Would it have made the character more rounded? Or two-dimensional with that joke?
I think it would have definitely helped. It would have weirdly helped in a weird way, because then like it would have almost like made every joke in that context make more sense. But obviously, I think it's just a 90s thing to make gay jokes.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, especially British comedy, I think at that time, Only Fools and Horses is more 80s, but they were doing it.
Yeah.
There's a couple of notable ones I can remember. That is the unfortunate thing, especially with comedy. Drama kind of because drama steers away from stuff like that. But with comedy, I think if you're going back to look at anything older than maybe even stuff from, if you go back and look at stuff like The Inbetweeners, which is only 10 years old.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a bit older than that now. But that's got stuff that you really like. They're all insulting each other with homophobic slurs.
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't get on TV now.
I was going to say, like, even we were talking about Little Britain, the other show, Come Fly With Me, which is like 12 years old now, did the same thing.
Yeah. And also there was, I mean, they blacked up.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's difficult talking about comedy for that age, especially like if you're like me, you've got a soft spot for certain ones. And one of the reasons to pull back the curtain a bit that I picked Bottom is because I knew there were issues with it.
Yeah.
And I thought this is a good chance to look at the good and the bad.
Absolutely.
And I think it definitely, despite the bad, the same with Only Fools and Horses and Little Britain, there is still value in it in terms of writing and comedy and wit.
Yeah. No, I think absolutely. And I'm never this kind of person who's like, these shows from like 20 years ago, they say something offensive, therefore they have no value. I feel like they're a time capsule of what that era was like. So I feel like...
Capture the zeitgeist.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you should present these like pieces of media as they are. Just put like a word of warning to say, these use languages like from this time and what we're presenting it how it is. I think that's a more appropriate way to present this rather than...
I think BritBox do that now. The Bottom isn't on BritBox yet. I'm sure it will be at some point because it's a BBC product. I watched it rewatched these episodes on Now TV, and you watched them on Prime, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they are available that way. The live shows, however, are a pain in the arse to get hold of.
I found the first live show through YouTube, actually, thankfully.
Yeah, I was meant to lend you the DVDs, but we forgot to trade them.
Yeah.
So stuff I love about, like, there's... Rick Mayall may have the most expressive face I've ever seen.
Yes.
Like, he has about 8 expressions in about 6 seconds. So when he's offered to do the kiss of life to the gas man, he pulls about 6 different faces.
Yeah.
And you go on the journey with Richie of him going, no, maybe, yes, no. Like, he goes like for a circle of expressions. Another thing I love is the dodgy electrical effect.
Yeah.
When he tries to revive him, like they're clearly coded on later on top.
Yeah.
Very analog electrical effect. Dodgy. And but the thing is, I think even if you were to do a show like this now, put that effect on the top rather than a good electrical effect because it just suits the...
It suits the vibe more.
Yeah, way more. So what do you think of when they actually break into the next flat?
Oh God, it was incredible because obviously they basically just bust down the door, not bust down the wall that leads into the guy's bedroom.
How does he stay asleep?
That's what I thought, and then obviously Richie gets dragged into bed with them.
Did you catch the guy's name?
Mr. Rottweiler.
Rottweiler, like the dog,
yeah.
And you can see why when you look at him.
Oh yeah, especially at the end where he literally burst through the wall again to grab them both.
Yeah, there's a couple of good moments in the other flat, but the thing that really stood out to me, like actually analysing it, because I've watched these episodes, they're kind of... This is the same thing that happened with the Mighty Ducks. I'm almost numb to them, so like I enjoy them, but when I actually go, I'm watching this to take notes, stuff occurs to me that have not previously occurred to me in a lot of the way. They're such scumbags.
Oh, no, absolutely.
The fact that he like takes a picture up the bed and Richie tries to crawl. Like the reason he's in the bed in the first place is because he's trying to perv on the girl. I think you're still supposed to see them as the good guys, which is like...
See, I saw it in the Always Sunny in Philadelphia sense where these are scumbags doing scummy things and you're not really meant to root for them, but you're not against them, you're just like witnessing it.
Yeah, there is that actually, yeah. I kind of, especially with people like this and the way, you know that if something goes wrong, it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah,
you're kind of willing it to go wrong.
You kind of want it to go wrong.
Where some comedies, you find it hard. Like if I watch an Only Fools and Horses episode where the deal goes through and like Dale doesn't go through and Dale loses all his money and I feel sorry for the characters.
Yeah.
Whereas when something goes wrong for Richie, there's another episode which we didn't cover. Richie loses like £600 that he inherits. He gets half of it stolen and he gets another half of it like mugged off of him. And do I feel sorry for him? No, because he's a dick.
Yeah, exactly.
This episode's got one of the gags that is in almost every episode, and it's in the live show probably 3 or 4 times, where they say something that sounds innocuous, and it's about their underwear.
Yeah.
So he's, I think in this one, what is it he says? Have you got the wrench? As in, for a spanner. And he says, no, it's just that my underpants are a bit tight. And that is a recurring joke. Once or twice an episode sometimes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's always like Eddie like mishearing it because it's Eddie. I guess Eddie's meant to be the stupider one.
He's more shit. Yeah, he's definitely meant to be the simpler one. The other thing I noticed is not only are they clearly virgins, they don't know how to have sex.
Yeah.
So when they're at the window, he's like, "I told you that's how you do it." That wouldn't happen in the age of porn, I don't think. Internet porn. Right, so that's Gas. What did you think of Gas?
As a first episode, like its introduction to everything, I thought it amazing. I was very tempted to continue watching season 1 after that, but obviously,
I recommend it. Yeah, at some point when you've got a bit of free time and you're not analysing it, you just want to sit down.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those like shows I could just sit down, turn my brain off, just watch it. Because obviously, these you maybe watch like 3 like half an hour episodes. I just breezed through these, like just watched one after the other because I just found them so fun to watch.
Yeah, they are very fun. Aren't they?
Not spoiling like my views on the other episodes, but yeah, it's just so fun to watch.
So you said your favourite quote there was steaming cold tea.
Yeah.
Which way are you leaning? For our first episode, who's your favourite character? You're an Eddie or you're a Richie?
I'm definitely more of a Richie.
Yeah.
I think for every episode I'm more of a Richie fan. I think as we said, like there's unspoken depth to him.
Yeah.
I feel like he's the guy you can throw all the material at, and he's the one that spats all the material and it just bounces off Eddie. Like Eddie's almost in a weird way the straight man.
Yeah.
Which is weird when they're both so wacky, but Eddie's just like on another Richie's just on another level.
It's an interesting thing because now I would say Richie's my favourite character and I love Eddie. But when I was younger, it was Eddie. He's the guy who always starts the fights. They're both good at it, but to give Edmondson his props, he's much, when it comes to the physical side of the fights, he looks more convincing, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's something about the way he does it. I prefer, maybe it's just because they let Eddie use like cricket bats all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So the second episode we said to watch was Burglary, which is another kind of big classic one.
Yeah.
There was a bit of an error with this one, wasn't there? Because I said it was episode 2, which is what it's listed as on IMDb.
Yeah, and when I went to look at it on Prime, it said episode 3.
And it says the same on Now.
Okay.
So, I'll be honest with you, I don't know which way around they're supposed to go, but IMDb says it's 2, but it's Burglary, that's the one we watched. The first thing on this episode is when Eddie bowls through the door drunk, the faces that they're both pulling, they don't say anything for about 15 seconds.
Yeah, I first noticed the staring in silence is deafening.
Yeah, but like, they managed to convey, and I know Rich is also ironing, but the faces he's pulling, they kind of pull this marriage dynamic with just faces.
That's my second no.
Hey. Like they've not said anything, they've not made a joke about it, they're just pulling faces.
Exactly. And for Eddie's drunken performance, it's just incredible.
Yeah, he's great.
The physicality of it, the way he's slurring the words at the right moment. Yeah, it's perfect. One of my favourite quotes in the episodes, I have liquidized your assets.
Yes, that was the one I was going to go with.
That is from this episode. I wrote it down the moment I heard it.
Yeah, you wish now that you could do that to someone. Where's my money? I have liquidized your assets. One of my favourite lines is after Eddie drinks the bleach and Richie's got to put him to bed, and he says he's nicer than Jesus and Gandhi.
Yeah,
and they didn't have to deal with it.
There's just me, Jesus, and Mahatma Gandhi. That's my other line.
It is an absolutely top line. Now there is a line here that again hasn't aged well. As Eddie's being pulled up the stairs, did you catch it?
No.
So he says, I think it's something like, "Do your worst, you slanty-eyed fiend," which I'm guessing is a thing about like torture. Would be my guess.
Yeah, that's what I was. See, I thought, it was either torture or never mind. Well, it was sexual because a lot of the humour between those two is sexual. So I was like, oh, was he? Like, imagine like he was like a massage parlour. Let's say that.
No, the way I've always read that one is that because he's having his head bashed against the stairs as he goes up, is that he's being tortured. Yeah. Yeah, and he's like against it. Obviously, he's so numb with alcohol anyway.
Then also in that scene, his balls get constantly crushed against the stairs.
Yeah, he pulled that and actually pulling the stair bits out. Yeah, so funny. This next scene, when they're at the top of the landing, is one of my favourite all time. In all of it, is one of my favourite scenes because it's so daft. So after he puts Eddie to bed, and he does the countdown, doesn't he? He goes 3, 2, 1, crash, and he's like, every night I have to put him to bed, etc. Then when I hear the burglars downstairs, and Eddie he's never heard the phrase "the drawing room."
Yeah,
it's like, we've got a whole room just for drawing. And then he like later renames it the sketching room and the colouring in room because he can't remember.
Yeah. I was gonna say, the entire like argument they have like on top of one on top of the staircase with the burglar cell. How did the burglar not hear them?
Oh yeah, they're so loud. It's like when in the last episode when the neighbours were asleep and they break in. How did they not hear?
Yeah.
I think obviously you got to allow some of it for comic purposes, and they are in a block of flats as well, so there's probably going to be noise around.
That's true. Then there's also the escalation of what they think the robbers are going to do to their body.
Yeah. It gets a bit grim and.
It doesn't even say like they're going to skin off our bodies and make us have sex with each other.
No, he's just they're going to bugger them. The burglars are going to...
Yeah, they're going to wear their bodies like skin coats and like bugger each other.
Oh yeah, that was it. Okay, yeah. Well, like, it's so graphic. Well, I like the response to that. At the end they go, there's just not an option really, is it?
Yeah. And then, of course, Eddie gets a gun.
Of course, yeah. His mother's service revolver.
Yeah. She left me and the service revolver together. But his childhood sounds really depressing.
Yeah, you do get like little hints of it. Have you caught his surname yet?
No.
His surname's Hitler. And so they're Richard,
Yeah.
and Eddie Hitler. And across the episodes, he often gets asked any relation, and he says yes.
Also, then, of course, Eddie asked to be called Dirty Eddie.
Dirty Eddie, just so he can look a little bit sexy.
Yeah.
That is funny when he said he wants to shoot the lock off.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll just use the key. It's like, you have to come up with a normal, sensible solution, don't you? Which is the most un-Richie thing anyway.
Yeah.
Neither of them do sensible.
And of course, Richie stands on Eddie's back trying to unlock the hatch, and then he just falls down the stairs.
No, he hangs onto the light bulb first.
Oh, yeah, then he just...
And then Eddie turns it on.
Yeah. He's like, wait, I was like, no! And just like, let's go immediately, and just falls.
Lands on the burglar.
Yeah.
Which leads to the next scene back down in the living room. Again, another classic when they're figuring out how they want to like torture him or get information out of him, and neither of them are very good at it. Like Eddie's line of questioning, did you watch Emmerdale Farm last night?
Such a torturous question.
This scene does spawn I think there's an Instagram page named after it and a Facebook group as well. I think they call themselves the Hammersmith Hardmen. And yeah, that's become a thing in of itself. It's from one line in this one episode.
They have like so much sellotape that they can like just sellotape the burglar
and then tape him to the roof, the ceiling. Did you notice there's another line here that I think fits in with them perving on the lady in the last one? Did you realise why they had their ladder confiscated?
Were they looking at one of their neighbours?
The police took it when a bunch of nurses moved in next door. Oh.
And then they're like, then obviously they find out the burglar has all those jewels and like, we can have it ourselves, we have to kill the burglar now. Yeah. So they decide they're going to give him poison.
Yes, and where was the poison?
In the yellow cup.
No, before that. It's up on the roof.
Oh,
over
yeah.
there, like...
Oh, yeah, then he falls through the...
Little fact for you. Adrian did that stunt himself, so that's him falling through.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so I'm assuming they put a crash pad or something.
Yeah.
The whole thing is him.
I was going to say, because obviously when he goes out on the side, the other burglar's there just staring at him.
Yeah, watching him. Yeah, which... I remember watching this on a tiny little CRT TV and not noticing that, because obviously it's quite dark.
Yeah.
And when I first got a big TV and watched it, I was like, oh my god, there's another person there.
Yeah. But yeah, he goes up there, he gets the bird poison, falls through, then he puts into the tea in yellow cup. But all yellow cups.
So they make him down all three of them. Yeah. There's a bit where Richie pushes the pencil up Eddie's nose. Yeah. Oh my god, that still makes me wince.
It's
even
the
thinking
noise
about
as
it.
well.
Yeah.
It's like, that's quite a squelching noise.
Sounds like that and a squeaky door mixed together. Oh, it's gross.
Yeah. So obviously, before that happened, before they sold the jewels, Richie called the police. So then the police show up, but they don't want them to know they're about to kill a man and they have the jewels. So his excuse is, I'll sleep telephoning.
Sleep everything.
Yeah.
They list off. What I find funny about this, and it's something they did in the young ones as well, they clearly hate the police.
Yes, they referenced something called the Birmingham Six.
I didn't know. Yeah, I did. I should have looked that up. Did you look it up?
No, I was wondering if you knew what it was.
Let's look it up now. Let's have a quick look. Oh, I've gone in airplane mode.
Because obviously they reference that, and the policeman looks really, really pissed off, and then he gets the other one to hit him. So obviously, I think it's something to do with police brutality. Yeah.
So they've often kind of pulled that kind of stuff out with police brutality. They definitely do it in the young ones. There's a scene where Vivian, who's Adrian Edmondson, and Mike create like a fascist junta, and Vivian's a policeman and he just beats everyone up. So Birmingham Six are was 6 Irishmen who were given life imprisonment under false convictions of bombing pubs in Birmingham.
Okay.
But yeah, they've had a history of the disagreements with the police. They clearly do not like.
Yeah, absolutely. The way they're portrayed in this, very just like no nonsense, but to the point. They just like they just want to get out and just They obviously beat up Richie on the way out because you've wasted our time, so we're going to beat you up for that.
Yeah, just punch him in the face. Oh no, they clobber him over the head.
They clobber him on the head with the baton, yeah. But then what made me laugh is they didn't see the body on the ceiling.
No, just took to the ceiling.
Look up and they would see him. Obviously, then that happens. The other burglar comes in, knocks out Eddie, then knocks out Richie, robs the fat, leaves them both tied up with mouth traps by their penises.
Yes.
That's the best ending I've ever seen.
So the woman, the picture that's on their knee, it's a woman called Sue Carpenter, and I'm well beyond before my time, but I actually looked her up for this. She's just a British TV presenter. Well, they mentioned her multiple times in multiple episodes.
They mentioned her in Gas as well, which was like, oh, I remember this joke. But they even like have a photo of her. They just said her name.
Yeah.
And that was enough for them to trigger the mousetrap.
Oh no, it just says her name.
It's just a note that says Sue Carpenter. They go, oh no, snap.
So there's a couple of little things I wrote here as notes. First of all, I didn't intentionally give you 2 episodes where they nearly kill someone. They nearly kill the gas man and they nearly kill that burglar.
They technically gave me 3 because in the 3rd episode, not to go into spoilers, but Eddie almost kills himself.
Yeah, I mean, they're just idiots though. And the other thing, I think, I didn't notice this until I watched the credits. The burglars have got names, the 2 burglars, and they're called Wormwood and Scrubs, named after the prison. Which I thought was just a nice little touch. So, did you like Burglary?
It's my favourite episode of 3.
Is it? Yeah, it's very funny, isn't it? What was your favourite bit of this?
I just genuinely think it's the opening of Eddie coming in, Richie being pissed off, carrying him up the stairs, and then up until the moment they hit a burglar in. I think as an opening, it's great. I think one thing that the show does is escalation.
Yes.
Like each 10 minutes gets like wackier and wackier. And I think just for an opening, where you know the concepts about burglary, but like how you're going to get to that moment. And of course you have to set up with a drunken Eddie, but it's just great to me, and it's great. It highlights their relationship in a great way.
Now, did you notice at the end of the Slipknot episode when I said we were doing this, I was hesitant to call it a sitcom.
Yeah.
Because every episode starts like a sitcom, but it goes so weird and outlandish that I have trouble calling stuff like Always Sunny in Philadelphia a sitcom, because it's in a structure of a sitcom, but no one's in those situations.
So with Always Sunny, the creators themselves actually call it a reverse sitcom.
Okay.
Because the idea with a sitcom is they go through this thing, try to get good fortune, doesn't work out for them, and they end up back at square one.
Yeah.
And it's funny because obviously with Bottom, they don't always... So like with the way the episode ends, they never end up back at square one because they've done something dramatically...
So much damage has been done.
Yeah, so much damage has been done to their world that they haven't gone back to square one, but obviously when it starts up again, they don't reference the past episode. So,
no, they don't. Yeah.
So it's kind of sitcom-y, but also it's just so wacky that you can get away with not calling it a sitcom.
They do the Simpsons thing as well, quite a lot of retconning themselves.
Yeah.
They'll say in one episode that Eddie has had... So Richie's always a virgin.
Yeah.
But in one episode, Eddie has definitely had a girlfriend and had sex. And then later on, he's a virgin.
Yeah.
So they do retcon themselves a lot like the Simpsons do, and a lot.
Yeah, but also they'd just be up to Eddie being a liar.
Yeah, or his interpretation of what he's actually done.
Yeah.
So the third and final of the regular episodes we're going to look at is the Halloween episode, Terror.
Yes.
Now, just from the title, what did you think was coming?
I did think it was a Halloween episode. I did think it had something to do with trick-or-treaters. My mindset was it would be trick-or-treaters terrorising them. I did not see...
how far it was going to go.
Yeah. Can we just get to the end of this episode? That's why it's just so out of nowhere. Just the idea of it. They try to summon Satan.
Yes, yeah, it's very good.
But obviously, we should start at the beginning, and the opening has like one of my favourite lines, which is, "I'm depressed. Good, thanks. I feel great now." Like, no, wait, no, I feel bad.
Yeah, and he's upset that he can no longer feel depressed.
Yeah.
So that's all comes from the initial Spot the Balls competition, which is one of the stupidest jokes.
Yeah.
They're clearly there in his shorts.
Yeah.
There's another reference here to someone, Maria Whittaker. Didn't know who it was. Looked it up. She was a model.
That's it. Whenever they said like a female like person's name, I assumed someone famous from the time. Like,
yeah. Well, this thing, I've never looked them up before doing this episode. So I was like, well, I should probably actually look them up. The next...
I had a question.
Yeah.
So Eddie goes, "Oh, do you want flakes? Or where are the flakes?" And so Eddie goes, "Where are the flakes?" And Richie like kind of freaks out, going, "What? What?" Like, what did he mean? What did he mean?
Well, he obviously meant cornflakes, but my presumption is some kind of scabby STD of some description.
I guess I didn't think.
The only thing I could think of was like a cold sore virus. Like,
yeah, it was just so weird.
Yeah, that's the only one. So that's in like what I've written down here as the constant double entendre.
Yeah.
Of like 6 in a row, and that's part of it. Starts with "How's your sausage?" and kind of ends up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what they were aiming for with that. I think they just thought it sounded funny, probably.
Yeah. The kids are trick-or-treating in the morning.
Yes. I mean, the way kids trick-or-treat now, that doesn't surprise me, but yeah, this is 1990, I think this is 96, the third series.
Yes. No, 95.
95,
yeah.
Sorry.
So I was very shocked. So, obviously, just weird. Like, they're trick-or-treating in the morning, but then, obviously, Eddie and Richie get the idea of instead of trick-or-treating for food, we'll trick-or-treat for money.
They... yeah. Well, there's one of my favourite lines there with the kids. It's trick-or-treat, you bald-headed bastard.
Yeah.
And then Richie just assumes he's got the DTs again, which is like, obviously, alcohol withdrawal. Which is why he's seen the devils.
Yeah.
Which is really good. And there's another line here. I went on a stag do recently, and someone quoted this, and I think they wanted no one else to know where it came from, but I knew instantly.
Yeah.
It was all... Well, I wasn't, but a lot of people hung over on the Saturday morning, and someone downed a Alka-Seltzer.
Yeah.
And one of the guys said, "Up the nose or not at all," which is the line from this, which is what he does to the hangover cure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great line, and I like that it's like permeated some people's consciousness with that. The other one is when they're like, "Give us a sweet," and he's like, "I can't give you a sweet, I'll get arrested." What kind of thing is this? So the kids, the three of them, Mohammed George, who's the one in the back, the black kid.
Yeah.
He was actually in EastEnders for 6 years.
Oh, wow.
As an adult. So I looked them up, and the other two have not really done anything else. But yeah, he's gone on to do... He was in EastEnders for 6 years. I've never watched EastEnders, so I don't know who the character was, but yeah, he did something.
Nice. I think that's always the thing with child actors, like, one breaks out, others don't really. Yeah. Obviously, with the Mighty Ducks, there were quite a few that broke out.
Yeah, but still less than half, I would think.
Yeah.
A lot of them, their next acting role was coming back for the Game Changers.
Yeah. So it was really weird seeing them out the house.
Yeah, they very rarely do it. About once a season, they go out the house, yeah.
And then obviously they see the kids and they're like, "Let's go beat them up." And then they give beating up, and then Eddie's like climbing the wall and he does a 4-4 break.
Yes, they do occasionally do that. I think it's about 3 or 4 across the series. One of the things that we've, kind of jumped past that I think is amazing, the prop of the cattle prod is ridiculous.
It is, like, also when you mention a cattle prod, it's just a stick. No, this is like a flamethrower.
It looks like a Gatling gun from like Fallout. It's ridiculous. It's
so over the top, and obviously the moment he turns it on, it instantly just like backfires and affects Richie and makes him shoot himself.
Trust Eddie to be building that kind of thing. Yeah. But did you notice when they are getting beaten up by the kids and you say Eddie leans over the wall and breaks the fall? Did you notice there were some posters on the wall?
Yes. I tried to. They were like movie posters.
No, there was 2. There was a Jesus and Mary chain to the band. The other one was Carnage from Spider-Man.
Yes, the Maximum Carnage poster, yes.
Yeah, so presumably that's from a comic book.
Yes, so Carnage had just come out in the 90s, actually. Like, Maximum Carnage was his comic, so that was like the debut image of him. Yeah, I
was surprised about that. I was surprised that even got through.
I mean, Marvel was not in a good place financially in the 90s, so I don't think they could say no.
I don't know who the Jesus and Mary chain's label was, but you'd have thought they would have seen. Next, they go knocking, obviously, and they open the door to Spudgun, who's one of Eddie's friends, not Richie's. Richie has no
friends.
But Spudgun was originally, he wasn't going to be played by him, but they wanted Nigel Planner.
Really?
From The Young Ones.
Yeah.
Because obviously Dave Hedgehog is played by Christopher Ryan.
Yeah.
Who's also, and the 4 of them are The Young Ones, that's the 4 young ones. But he had other stuff that he was doing. So when they cast Spudgun in the first series, they kept the same actor. I do like Spudgun as a character, though.
Oh, he's very interesting. Like, you can obviously tell him and Eddie on the same wavelength of stupidity.
Yeah, they just don't want to... They just want to drink and have a laugh.
Yeah.
Be daft. Whereas Richie obviously always wants to... I think if it was left to Eddie, he would be an alcoholic, but he'd be just hanging out with his buddies at the pub. But no, he's got to put up with Richie.
Yeah, who's just trying to, like, just make money.
Yeah, kind of get above his station.
Yeah. Obviously, Richie constantly tries to use the cattle prod. Constantly backfires on him, and he gets shocked 3 times, which I would say is a good use of the rule of thirds in comedy.
Yes, definitely. But did you notice there's a little joke, and I only picked it up this time? Eddie uses it one time, and it works properly.
Yes.
So I think Eddie was intentionally putting the wrong setting on, because he always flicks something.
Yeah.
So I think he was intentionally doing that to Richie.
Oh, no, absolutely, because again, they hate each other, so...
Yeah, there's a bit of a codependency here that's so toxic.
Yeah.
When they get back, they're going to throw a Halloween party, they decided. And this is their way to now make money. They're going to charge everyone for coming.
Yeah.
So instead of getting pumpkins, Eddie gets carrots and puts some bangers in. The headbutt makes me chuckle every time.
Yeah.
But the exploding carrots are a great little prop.
Oh, God, yeah. The flammable farts it leads to.
Do you remember what causes the farts?
What's it?
It's Richie's Sprouts Mexicane.
Oh, yes, because they have the sprouts of evil.
Yes, that are covered in like curry powder and
yeah,
shit.
So, yeah.
And gunpowder as well is one of the ingredients. And the bit where the funny bit when it starts after Richie's had them and he's just walking and the fart goes off and the flames come out and he kind of doesn't realise. He's like, what was that? Like Rick Mayall's body language in that. How can you sell like clearly an actual flame, like they've installed a flamethrower coming out of his arse?
Yeah.
And he properly no-sells it.
Like nothing's happening. I want to know what the super... So they mentioned the super glue incident in this episode.
They often refer to stuff that I don't think has ever been seen on screen.
But here's the thing. Is that what happens in the live show?
Oh, yeah. So you are right. We're going to do the live show next, but it actually is done before Series 3.
Yeah.
So it's filmed between Series 2 and 3. So you might be right.
Yeah.
And the only reason I wouldn't put too much into that is because they quite often just refer
they refer to
stuff that sounds stupid.
Because honestly, I just looked at my notes now and said, I want to know what the super glue incident was. And then I saw like live show. I was like, oh, wait.
Yeah. Something does happen with the super glue in that one.
But obviously then they decide to raise the devil, who will then help Richie get laid. Because this is all he wants in this moment in time. And my favourite quote from the episode comes at this moment. You don't get slippers when you're raising the evil one.
Because obviously wearing robes, but they're actually dressing gowns.
Yeah, and then he's wearing slippers, but everyone else isn't.
Yeah, they're all, well, Richie's obviously, because he's Richie, he has to have the best thing. The fire effect is absolutely brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when they're all laying down on the floor, and it's going one by one. This is when the clock strikes midnight, and the doorbell goes, and they think it's the devil.
Yeah.
Turns out to be, was her name Christine Hedgehog?
Yes, Christine. No, Deborah Hedgehog, wasn't it?
Oh, I can't remember. It was Dave's
daughter.
Which is another one, considering he looks nervous when he says they drink the blood of virgins.
Yeah.
He's got a daughter.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on?
And then, obviously, in that moment, before he realises Eddie has already slit his wrist, it's a sacrifice
to the devil. That blood spew is beautiful. Like, overarching.
Yeah.
That pump on that blood spew is amazing.
And obviously, the exploding carrots go off and the flat blows up.
Yeah. Yeah, the amount of times that flat gets destroyed is ridiculous. Yeah, because he...
was it Spud Gun?
Spud Gun, yes.
He goes there and he farts.
Farts it on the exploding carrots.
And they all detonate.
Did you enjoy the episode?
Yeah, I loved it. Again, it's the escalation because you just have no idea where it's going to go.
Yeah, one step after the other, isn't it? You're like, what the...
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, okay, they're trying to find the balls. Okay, now they're going to go trick-or-treating. Wait, why are they summoning Satan?
One of my favourite lines actually happens right before the summoning Satan. So Eddie's made a homebrew that can't be stored in a cup. It dissolves the cups. It's taking the enamel off the bar.
Yeah.
And when Spud Gun drinks it, he goes, ooh, cheeky little number. It's like, Jesus Christ, what are these lot doing?
It's like, so yeah, they make the homebrew. It's like, it's been 45 minutes, it should be good enough.
I assume there's bleach and stuff in there.
Oh, absolutely.
Acid. The other good quote is another Eddie one, or an Eddie one, is when Richie offers him the Sprouts Mexicane. He says, I'd rather cut off my penis with a rusty bread knife, which I'm now going to bring into my lexicon.
And then doesn't he just stamp on Eddie's foot to force feed him the
that's later on, yeah. So yeah, that's a great episode. What did you say your favourite quote in that was?
You don't get slippers when you're raising the evil one.
That is a good one. Did you like what did you think of the extra characters? So they are semi-regulars, they're at least one episode a season.
I think it's always good to have people for them to bounce off. I think with the first episode, with the Gasman and Mr. Rottweiler, them bouncing off them, and then obviously you have the burglar, like, even though he's just doing physical acting because he's like being gagged up and everything, it's still good to have an additional person to bounce off.
Yeah.
And I think these two blend in so well, obviously, because they're like more on age wavelength, but they blend in so well that you could reasonably bring them in as more serious regulars, and I feel like you could get more comedy out of them too.
You definitely can. And they do throughout the series. I think there may be 4 or 5 all together.
Yeah.
They're very good, and they're recurring characters. You see Spudgun's mum at some point.
Do they always appear as that pair together?
Dave Hedgehog and Spudgun, yeah. You very rare. You don't. Do you see them? The most you see them without the other one is when they're in this episode.
Oh, okay.
Where they knock on Spudgun's door.
Yeah.
I think that might be the most you see them without the other one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're quite often in the pub with the other. So there is what's the pub called? It's like the Dog and Handgun or something. Something ridiculous. But yeah, they're often in the pub together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Not to spoil too much, but Tim already told me a minor thing about his displeasure with this. The live one from the very first live one, set between this is between series 1 and 2. Sorry, not between 2 and 3. Go on, have your piece.
Okay, so the first thing I was thinking was when I watched this was how's this going to transfer to a stage show, and also you see it's mainly just in the living room diner set, which is what works best. The physical comedy transfers really well.
Doing that, how skilled are they doing that in front of an audience?
Exactly. My issue is they stretch out the jokes way too long. It takes way too long to get going, and by the time I got to the second half, I was bored. I was ready to tap out. I did not enjoy this.
I'm really surprised. I think anyone I know who's a fan, they either love or hate live ones.
Yeah.
And I think my favourite one is either the 4th or 5th one. The most well-reviewed one is this one.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think it's just because it was the novelty of it?
I think so, and I think them breaking character quite a lot in the second half.
Yeah.
I think people enjoy that, and there's a point where in their first tour, it seems like it was quite legit.
Yeah.
And then things that people found funny, they wrote into the show properly.
Yeah.
And by the 4th and 5th one, some of it is clearly part of the show.
Yeah.
Like their quote-unquote fuck-ups are actually scripted, which actually I think makes, despite the fact being a bit less genuine, makes the show run smoother.
Yeah.
Because in the second half, they both corpse at one point.
Yeah.
And they legitimately both corpse.
Yeah. No, and stuff like that's great, but I just felt like with it, the show itself being 30 minutes, the jokes are tighter. There's like, they cut out the facts.
Yeah.
I think with this, it feels like an episode that had its first draft written, and they're like, oh, it stretches out for an hour and a half. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Because
I see what you mean. It's definitely not got the pace of an episode.
Because once it gets like the first half hour, that was when it feels like the plot is finally getting kicked into gear. Like the first half hour is just them faffing about, like just making jokes at each other because you want to set the stage for what the humour is, but it goes on for way too long. I honestly think
some of the best material is in that bit. I think when the first line after him, the fart is "Hello world, you bastard," which is it kind of highlights them still.
Yeah.
They're still where they were and stuff. And then quite early on, when Richie hits the special K off of his leg, and he does that walk, that is brilliant. I don't know how
leg walk.
The core strength he must have had to walk like that.
That's
ridiculous.
Like that's what I mean when I say the physical comedy transfers over really well, because it's not like in the show there was a lot of like fancy editing to hide what they were doing. No, it was them doing it. So it's very easy to transfer that to it being live. I just think it's the writing and again the pacing that suffers. Oh yeah, I barely took any notes in this because I was so just like drained.
I've got loads of notes, so we can go over mine.
Yeah, we'll go through yours because honestly I was just so drained while watching it.
So, do you remember the face that Rick pulls when he's frothing the milk or shaking the milk?
Oh,
like he goes like his lip quivering.
Yeah.
He's got like the Jim Carrey thing where his face is made of rubber.
Yeah, that's why I think he is the one that like will get all. That's why I say like Eddie is a straight man. He isn't, because he's the one who can do all the wacky stuff, and then Eddie reacts to it.
Yeah, essentially being freaked out most of the time.
Exactly.
One of my favourite jokes is quite early on when Eddie gives up on trying to eat the brick and just pours the beer in the bowl and drinks that.
And he pours a tiny sip.
for Richie. Yeah. And he says, hair of the dog, obviously, which means when you're hungover, you drink more to kind of balance it out. But Richie's reaction isn't, oh, yeah, he's like, oh no, I think it's a pube. And he pulls it out of his teeth.
Wait, so can I ask, you're a fan of this, the live show?
Yeah, I like the live shows, yeah.
So you like all of them, or just like...
I've got definitely a preference of order, and this one would probably be 4th out of 5, I think, for me. Okay. Yeah. There's a reason I picked it 1 is because it's their first one, which I think is important to show their first attempt at this. Maybe if we ever decide, down the line we're going to do rewatch or additional things that come back to stuff, maybe we'll watch some of the others. Yeah. Or maybe if you find it, you finding yourself depressed, want to watch another one. Did you look at the newspapers they were holding at all?
No.
So on the back of Eddie's one, this is an article about Gaza. So that really puts this into date.
As I said, the YouTube video I watched was very low quality, so some finer details were pixelated.
Even so, I watched it on my DVDs. So the quality isn't amazing, and it's still in 4:3.
Yeah.
But I watched it on a 50-inch telly, and that kind of compensated. Yeah. I think one of my favourite moments was when they took the telly on and realised it's Richard and Judy. Their reaction to Richard and Judy, he's like vomiting, like bleh, bleh. And I like there's almost, and I think this is quite intentional by them being the people they are and being the intelligent guys they are. They quite often send up lad culture. Yeah. So I think they did that with the newspaper, with the page 3 thing. Yeah. And I think they also do it later on when Richie says, well, hey, the lads. Yeah. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I think it's also a moment where Richie pretends like he's not interested in page 3. It's like, no, he catches a glimpse and he just stares and goes, why you got a cat on her head? And then we go, it's the year of the cat.
You have to read the article.
Yeah, in that moment, Eddie becomes a sophisticated one.
There's a bit where he looks again and he says something like, of course she's talented, or something like that. That is not a word I've heard for that. Just someone
page
posing
3,
before, yeah. Now, there is a joke here, which I didn't know if you could be considered on the line, which is when Eddie opens a letter and reads it aloud to Richie, and he says, "Dear Sir or Madam," and Richie takes offence. He says it was just a dodgy batch of hormone replacement pills. That's so on the line. Yeah. I bet, again, as we said earlier, in the 90s, would that have been considered on the line? I don't think it would have been.
No, that's it. In the 90s, it's I guess the whole LGBT community, when it's most of the media is controlled by straight white people, that's funny. That's just
yeah.
Again, they won't see us punching down. They say, oh, it's just a laugh, obviously.
There is definitely an element of punching down.
Oh, it's definitely punching down.
Although, I would wonder what hormone replacement pills Richie wanted. Presumably testosterone or something.
I think he wants testosterone, but also got estrogen because he referenced that his breasts have gone down now.
Yeah. Or to be honest, I thought he would just be buying Viagra, but clearly not.
I mean, I want to say, I saw who was obviously now out in that community. I did find myself laughing at that joke. I think it's... I was looking at it through the lens of, all right, let's see if someone in the 90s would write this, and seeing him react so, vivid, reaction, the writer's so reactionary. Oh my God, what the hell happened? That's really funny, and I can almost see your point of when you said earlier how it's not Richie being the punchline, it's the not accepting of it. Yeah. That could be the punchline.
And if you say, it's not like they felt like they were punching down. In a way they are, but they're punching down at Richie. Yeah. So he's an idiot who keeps doing stupid things.
Yeah, so in that moment, it's just Richie being an idiot, but at the same time, it's also, is Richie being trans, and that's the joke because he doesn't want to accept it. It's that kind of... It's that kind of feeling. Obviously, the only people who could answer that are the writers themselves. Yeah. But... when you look back at it and see how it is, you might just have different interpretations. When I saw it, it does feel like punching down.
Yeah, there is an element, and you're probably way more qualified to speak on it than me. And the second I heard it, I was like, these are the kind of things that I thought that are going to toe the line. Yeah. There are definitely sitcoms who do it way harder. Oh, yeah. Hit way harder, especially if you go further back, 70s. But these are the kind of jokes I knew that were in these shows that were going to... that I kind of wanted to talk about, because I love the series and I love the live shows, and I love them as writers. I love Rick in Drop Dead Fred. They're both brilliant in Blackadder.
Yeah.
So, have you watched the...
I've watched Blackadder, yeah.
So, do you remember who they are?
I know Rick appears in the last episode of the first season.
He's Lord Flashheart.
Yes.
And then he reappears as Flashheart twice more, but in the Adrian appears in Blackadder Goes Forth, so the World War II series. World War One series.
Yeah.
Sorry. So Rick is again Flashheart.
Yeah.
But he's obviously this time he's a pilot.
Yeah, exactly.
And Adrian is the German counterpart.
Oh.
So when they Blackadder gets captured and put in a German camp, and they're told you're going to go back to Germany and teach girls home economics or something. That's Adrian Edmondson. And then when Flashheart comes to break him out, I can't remember I think he's the Red Baron. He's like, two gentlemen of the sky, we finally meet, and da-da-da-da-da. And then Flashheart, Rick, just shoots him in the chest and goes, oh, what a puff, and just leaves. And so there is always that, again, very 90s, and that was Ben Elton, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Blackadder. So they kind of, Ben Elton's definitely more of a straight comedic writer than this kind of wacky thing. And that kind of stuff was still in there.
Yeah. That's it. I don't think that kind of humour left until the 2010s, really.
Yeah, again, like I said, the in-betweeners.
So even like Doctor Who, 2005, written by Russell T Davies, Rose calls him Dr. Gay as an insult.
Oh, she does, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even a show that's considered woke now, like Doctor Who, had problematic writing. So
written by Russell T Davies.
Written by Russell T Davies.
Yeah.
So it's very fascinating that, that's how humour was done, and for so long.
I'm sure at some point there's got to be kind of studies about homophobia and the way LGBTQ plus people are spoken about in the media. I'm sure there's people we could even talk to in the future. It would be an interesting thing to discuss.
No, absolutely, because I do think it is in itself a subject, because you do notice that transition, but it becomes more highlighted. It became more highlighted in the mid-2010s when woke was the new term to use. And then everyone's like, oh, everything's become woke all of a sudden.
Yeah, and people say that is a bad thing. I don't think it is. So I do like the bits in the second half where they break character, but there's some that's, I think, it's clearly intentional. When Richie's decided on how he's going to kill himself because of the solicitor's letter,
Yeah.
he says, why don't you just wank yourself to death? And he's like, haven't you been trying to do that for the whole tour?
Yeah.
Oh no, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong reference. When they're fighting each other and he's all sweating,
Yeah.
he says, I look like I've been masturbating for a month.
Yeah.
It's like, you have, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been a long tour.
So that's one thing I really love about the live shows, is when they break character.
Yeah.
Because I think people want to see it from them. Did you notice that Sandy Toksvig was referenced?
Yes, but...
So I love Sandy. Great presenter on QI. I didn't think Stephen Fry was replaceable, but she does a good job. And there's a bit where Eddie says Sandy Toksvig on the phone, and Richie comes in and he smells the air, goes, have you been saying Sandy Toksvig?
Yeah.
Which is that's so horrible.
Yeah.
I think they're friends though, which is the thing. Most of the people they insult, like Ben Elton, they're friends with them.
Yeah.
So I think that's the kind of the line they mostly toe.
But I think it works in that framework, because obviously they are, again, bottom society. They're going to make fun of people who are above them.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's what it comes from. The joke isn't, Sandy Toksvig, bad person. It's these stupid people are making fun of Sandy Toksvig.
Yeah, exactly. She's better than them.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, did you catch the name of the law firm?
No, what was it?
Shotgun, Bastard and Dribble. Which I think is an absolutely cracking name for a law firm.
So obviously, Eddie sees the solicitor's letter and thinks Richie is now owed 15,000.
Yes.
So his immediate thought is, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah. So he thinks, he's like, I've got to get myself to be the legal next of kin.
Yeah.
And then I can inherit the money.
Yeah.
What he doesn't understand, which we find out later, is that no, Rick's inherited a debt.
Yeah. He's now owes 15,000.
So the way is he asks what he can be. So he gets done by adoption, goes and sees Dodgy Ken the lawyer. Turns out he can only get a marriage certificate. So was it the beginning of the second half, now they're married.
Yeah.
But we skip over to kind of get to that bit. Richie receives a parcel.
Yes.
And in that parcel, we find out is an inflatable sex doll.
Yeah.
that he names Monica, which, in terms of a prop used in a Say show, is amazing. The way he flings it about, and I don't know if it was intentional, but the gag where she kind of falls into his crotch.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's just found out the exact way to tip it to make it do that, or if that was an accident. Either way,
that's it, because it was just so perfectly like placed.
Well, he doesn't even move though.
Yeah,
she just kind of collapses into it.
That's it. It's just so well done that you would think it was intentional, but I would truly believe it was by accident.
Yeah.
Well, so obviously in this is when he like says, "Here's the list of people I've had sex with," and it's like a little piece of paper with nothing on it.
It's an accurate report. Yeah. I wish I'd never commissioned it now. There's a couple of bits in there though. Did you notice Adrian was wearing his wedding ring? He normally remembers to take it off, but he was wearing it. Do you know who he's married to?
No, who is it?
Jennifer Saunders.
Really?
Yeah. The French and Saunders fame.
Wow.
So yeah. And their daughter is... I can't remember her name now. But she's an actress as well. She was in Josh Widdicombe's sitcom.
Oh, okay.
About himself, called Josh.
Yeah.
She was one of his flatmates, yeah. She looks a lot like her mum. So, some of the stuff he says to the doll, like when he's going to get the pump and he goes, "I'll be back in a sex mo."
Oh, yeah.
Which is ridiculous. And like the pervy face he pulls. Although there is a line where he's pumping her up, he says, "Oh, better be careful, don't want to shag a fatty."
Yeah.
Like, no, come on, man. The free working officers joke as well. She's a busy lady, she's got free working officers. Yeah. And then I like when they do jokes like that. I don't know if it was intentional. They're quite often in the audience cut to a woman laughing. I don't know if that was... They kind of seem to pick and choose for the certain jokes who they cut to.
Yeah.
The most 90s looking audience ever.
Honestly.
There's a bit where Eddie's on the phone and he says 10,000 by accident, I think.
Yeah.
I was like, is it 10 or 15? There's another mistake that I noticed as well. He calls Adrian Edmondson, Eddie, instead of saying Richie, he calls him Rick once.
Yeah, I
which is
heard
when
that.
they're fighting. Yeah. And I actually rewound it because I'd never noticed it before. He's like, Rick. Obviously, that's not the character. So in the second half, this is the thing you referenced before, the super glue.
Yes.
Eddie had replaced the hand cream with super glue.
Yeah, so Richie decided to put hand cream on his genitalia and then puts Monica down there head first, and then he finds out it was super glue, so she is stuck to him.
And then he can't get it off, and at first he describes it as having a hard on, doesn't he?
Yeah. And then obviously he tries to hide it from Eddie at first by literally covering it with the curtain.
And then when he finally shows him, the solutions to try and get it off are all brilliant. He tries to hammer and chisel, tries a drill, both of which break, before finally getting the saw.
He saws off, and then of course Richie thinks he's lost his penis. But
it's so small that he doesn't know that he hasn't.
Yeah.
Well, he's a raisin in the back of Monica's mouth, and they think is his penis. So there's a few... Oh, yeah, when he gets the magnifying glass and looks down the trousers, that is a comic.
Hello, it's still there.
And then Eddie's behind him, waving down.
Yeah.
It is brilliant. There's another bit here with the kind of almost the gay panic thing. When I can't remember the line that leads into it, but Richie says, "Are you trying to queer me up?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember what it is. Yeah, so there's another him panicking again. And Eddie's reaction is just, no. Because Eddie's way less panicked about these things because he's clearly confident in himself. And I think that says more again about the Richie character.
Yeah, the internalized homophobia.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I think what I noticed as well is a lot of the jokes that like we point out in like the first 3 episodes we looked at, they were spread out across episodes.
Yeah.
This is all over one story, so I find they lose their luster.
Yeah, I think there's 2 stories going on concurrently if you look at it.
Yeah.
There's Eddie trying to kill Richie for the money,
and
there's Richie trying to have sex with the doll. And they do weave those 2 stories. I think in the episodes, they're normally one joined story.
Yeah.
So I think there is more than just a 1 episode's worth of story there.
Yeah.
But they're trying to weave like 2 fabrics of 2 bits of story together.
I think in that sense it's done well. I just think it again just stretching a half-hour show to an hour and a half.
I think they probably got... If you're actually looking at solid material, you're probably looking at more 40 or 50 minutes there than an hour and a half. But yeah, I do see what you mean. And there are some jokes repeated from the shows. If you go back and watch the episodes, they do repeat a couple of the jokes. I wrote this. When Richie's doing his serious acting, and he's like getting them to cheer for him and stuff.
Yeah.
He really reminded me of Tommy Wiseau. Because obviously he's doing it as a joke.
Yeah.
But Tommy, that's like his serious acting.
Yeah,
So Tommy
yeah.
was over in the room, and then I like Adrian. Obviously, they both do a bit where they do proper serious acting, and Adrian gets a way bigger reaction.
Yeah.
And Richie's like flipping off the crowd, which is really funny. This is when they corpse, like I mentioned earlier. Richie can't get through a bit, or Rick can't get through a bit, and they're both just corpsing about it.
Yeah.
Which is very funny.
I think it's funny when, like, in comedy shows they corpse.
Yeah.
Because it just adds to it in a weird way.
So, there's a line in here which I thought was really funny, which is like, when he shouts it at the audience, he says, "Stop laughing, imagine you're watching Ben Elton or something," and Ben Elton's his mate. Obviously, he wrote Blackadder and a lot of other things, which I think is very funny. One of the things I did think that maybe people would have a problem with now, towards the end of the show, there's the kind of very casual approach to the suicide that Richie's contemplating.
Yeah.
You see Eddie's trying to force him into it, and Richie's being incredibly casual about it himself, which I think maybe wouldn't fly now.
Depends how it's written in a weird way. Because I would say it's weird. I've watched a lot of comedy shows where they mention suicide as an option.
Yeah.
I think if it's well written, it's fine.
That's true, yeah.
Because I would say the most distasteful suicide joke I've heard is from Family Guy, believe it or not.
No, I do believe that.
Yeah. It's when Peter's like, "I'm going to slit my wrist. How should I do it?" And Meg goes, "Left to right for attention, up and down to get the results."
Yeah, I do.
And it's like, ooh.
Oh, poor Meg.
Yeah.
I do feel sorry for that character, and anyone I now meet called Megan.
Yeah.
I still get abuse.
I can go into a whole tirade about Family Guy. I watch it, but I don't think it's a good show.
It's dipped in quality. I prefer American Dad.
Yeah, American Dad's always been the better show in my eyes.
So there's a bit that happens here. So it's when Richie is on his own and he's doing the prayer. Did you notice how often, I think it's once in each half, they give each other a break?
Yeah.
Of about 5 minutes. So they can go have a breather. But every time they ask, in all 5 live shows, at some point, one of them says something to the audience. It's an open-ended question. And every single show, one of the audience members shouts back, "Have a wank." So it's like, "Whatever do I do?" And they just shout, "Have a wank." Because he's obviously like about to pray.
Yeah.
There's a really good gag actually. So that gag where he's like on his knees, and in the scene he's like, "Oh, my knees," and he's in the spotlight. In a later one, nothing happens when he goes to his knees, and he says, "Shouldn't there be a spotlight on the most important part of the stage?" And it all goes black, and the side of the stage is lit up, which is a very good joke. And that's kind of it. We're kind of getting to the end.
Yeah.
So Eddie brings out, when they're trying to think of a way for Richard to kill himself, brings out an electric toilet, like an electric chair.
Yeah. Which is the most Eddie thing I could think of.
Yeah, it's along with the cattle prod he made.
Yeah.
This is like, this is an Eddie invention. There's a couple that he makes in. I don't know if to spoil the joke for you. Do you want a joke spoil from the 5th one?
Yeah, go for it.
He creates a time-travelling toilet called the TARDIS. As a Doctor Who fan, I thought you'd appreciate that.
Oh, I love it.
And that's how it ends. They end with an explosion.
Yeah.
And to killing themselves, strapping themselves into the thing. Obviously, they don't die. They come back for series 2, 3, and 4 more live shows.
Yeah, so...
But I think, is it every 2 or 3 of the live shows they kill themselves at the end? Or they get killed by something?
It just feels...
very bottom.
Yeah, very bottom, yeah.
I didn't want to tell you this at the beginning, but not only did I like bottom, I went to one of the live shows.
Really?
I was 15 years old, and I went to the 2003 one, which is the last one.
Is that one your favourite?
Yeah. but because I was there.
Yeah.
I went to Croydon Fairfield Halls to see it.
Nice.
And it was great. That's the one with the TARDIS in. It's called Weapons Grade Y-Fronts. And it is... Yeah, it might be my favourite one.
Amazing.
The first half is set in the flat, and the second half they're travelling through time.
That's amazing.
And I won't spoil any more, but I think if you're going to enjoy any of it.
I mean, that one was recommended on my Watch Next on YouTube, so it's on YouTube, so I can watch it.
So yeah, if you go back and watch the series, because they do some back referencing of jokes because they travel through time.
Yeah.
And they even reference the young ones, which I don't know if you'll get if you don't watch it, but it's worth watching.
No, okay.
So overall, bottom, Rick Mayall, Adrian Edmondson, thoughts?
It's a great show. It's a great show. It's dated in some areas, as we discussed. I think it's definitely with Richie's queer-codedness in how it's the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I see it. Obviously, I think the joke is he is gay, and that's always going to be the punchline. It's wackiness. It's really wacky. I love it. The humor is just outstanding, and yeah, I'm definitely going to watch more of it.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad that it could win you over. I was worried. I genuinely was like, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who can't stand it. And with you, we know each other quite well now, and I was like, this could go either way. I actually didn't know. Most people, I think I can take the measure of them and go, they're going to hate this. I love it. With that and you, I was like, I don't know which way this is going to go. But I'm glad you at least like some of it, like the TV show, even if you didn't really enjoy the live show. And I'm glad the thing you didn't enjoy about the live show was just the pacing.
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't go, it's all shit.
No, the humour is definitely there. I just think it is trimmed the fat. In my mind, what I would have done is, obviously they have two halves, just tell two stories.
Which is what they do later on.
Okay.
So 4 and 5, 2 stories.
Okay, I'll be very interested
and
to see
fact, I think 3 as well.
Okay.
So Hooligans Island is the third one, the fourth one's The Arse Oddity. And Weapons Grade White Funds, all 3 of them split. In fact, I think even the second one does. So the first half they're in the flat and the second half they're in prison.
Okay. So, because I do think also the idea of it just being in the flat, you're just looking at one set the entire time. Yeah,
all of the others have 2 sets. Yeah.
Amazing.
So maybe that's something worth you looking at.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Right, brilliant. We're going to wrap this up now. So that's it from talking about Bottom. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Tim, what are you going to have me watching? What are we going to talk about in 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I'll be taking Bobby through the Lonely Island movies. That includes Hot Rod, Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping, and the Unauthorized Bash Brothers Experience. If you want to watch these before the episode comes out, Hot Rod is available on Netflix, Popstar Never Stop Stopping is available on Now TV, and the Bash Brothers Experience is available on Netflix. Bobby, you excited?
I am. So I do know a bit about the Lonely Island, but I know the music. I've never watched any of the movies. I'm a fan of the music. I've not been on a boat without singing I'm on a Boat for about 10 years. Dick in a Box is amazing. Mother Love is amazing, but I've never watched the films. So I'm actually really excited. I'm a bit of an Andy Samberg fan, love Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but I've never watched these movies, and I'm actually super excited to watch them.
And if you want to follow us on Instagram, we are CC Society Pod. And if you want to email us, we're ccsocietypod@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening.